When I was growing up, and through probably all of my undergraduate years, I was convinced there were three things that I would accomplish by the time I am the age I am now. I would address the problem with the unequal distribution of wealth in the world. I would find a way to end those easily curable childhood diseases and eliminate hunger. And those were connected in my brain. And the third one was that I would stop global nuclear proliferation. And in an effort to be completely transparent with you, I have to let you know that I've not started yet on any of those. Seems that through a series of Byzantine and not particularly interesting twists and turns, I ended up in the God business. It's not the mean God business, though. It's not the God business where you get to have a media empire and say nasty things about people who are poor and live on fault lines, or perhaps are too unlucky to live next to poorly built levees. I was in the God business that dealt with people who were mangled and dying and grieving. And it was a great job. I liked it a lot. Because when people are in crisis, they talk about what's real to them, not what someone else has told them to say. It's fascinating. But I wasn't sure what I was to do with these people. And I have this particular talent of saying the wrong thing at the wrong time. So I was fortunate to have a series of people who took me to the precipice of failure, where I could finally learn what I was supposed to do with these people. One of them was a little boy. He was 10. He was a hemophiliac. He had AIDS. It was 1987. I was 25. I had a fresh, fancy degree from Duke. I was well trained. I didn't have many road miles on me, but I was prepared and qualified to tell people how to deal with crises in their lives. I would see him every day, and at that time, we took a lot of extra precautions with people with AIDS. And so to visit him, I had to put on a shower cap and gloves and a gown and little booties and a mask. And I went in, and one day I said, "What's it like never seeing our faces and never touching us?" And he answered in the way that only a 10-year-old can. "Oh, God, it's like I just want to tell y'all. It's not like I have AIDS or something." I walked out. I couldn't believe it. This mother would not talk to her son, and he had a right to know what was going on with him. So I called her, and I made an appointment with her. She said what time was easy for her to make, and I said, no, you need to come at this time because I'll be there. She showed up. I had my purple folder full of all kinds of information that would be helpful for her and her family as they talked to him and they would process the situation. And I asked her how she was. She said, "I don't know. I'm really tired. I'm just tired. His dad works overseas, you know." "No, I didn't know that." He said, "Well, he comes home about every 3.5 weeks, but we can't afford for him to get another job. You know, I have 2 other children at home also." I said, "Oh, no, I didn't know that. They're both hemophiliacs also." "Oh, and they're HIV positive. They haven't converted yet, but they will." She said, I don't know what to do. You see, we don't know how to tell him that he's got AIDS, because if we do, we'll need to talk to the other 2, and I don't know how to tell all 3 of my children they're going to die soon. Do you have any suggestions?" "Oh, shit, no, I don't have any suggestions, and neither did anyone else for that matter." I took my folder and I sat on it, and I listened, and I listened, and I listened, and I listened. And that's what I did for about 20 years, was I listened to people. And I learned that fewer and fewer people have anyone in their lives who really listen to them. It seems as if we live in a society that's been co-opted by fundamentalism of many sorts. And so we back ourselves into corners and we speak at people trying to convince them that we are right, and we never hear what someone else is saying to us. Well, one day I woke up and I said, I'm getting old, and I'm just going to spend my entire life working with the dying and then just die. If I want to do something else, I should do it now. So I went to work with the lifelong education of ministers. And when I got there, I found out they were all dying. It turns out in the 50s, clergy in the United States had the longest life expectancy of any profession in the United States. By the 90s, they had the shortest life expectancy. They had the highest rates of stress-related illnesses and deaths. Survey after survey indicated that they were lonely, isolated, depressed, they were fat, they were in terrible shape. Well, the Lilly Endowment, which we in the business call the Church's One Foundation, came and they offered 63 institutions about $84 million and said, bring these people together. Let them talk to each other. Let them learn from each other. Let's find out what is it they need to be alive. So about 10 years later, we've been looking at these people. And I just surveyed 5,000 of them. And what we found out is that they're pretty happy. They're healthier. Their families are happier. They don't have any more money. They don't have any more social power. They don't have any prestige. But they have people who know them and people who hold them accountable for work and word. They have friends. It seems that they may have been, my mouth's getting dry, our social canaries in the coal mine. Because today there are studies being produced that show that loneliness and isolation run rampant in Western Europe and the United States. The most depressing factoid I know of is that our average number of friends per person has dropped from 3 to 2. Folks, we can't get a poker game together. If you play Risk, it's never gonna end. And yet, if you look at Facebook, you might have hundreds, perhaps thousands of friends. But, I mean, who do you call to say that your tomato seedlings have sprouted? Who do you call when you find that first little terrible middle-aged upper lip whisker? Or that your child has been arrested, or that your mother no longer remembers your face? That's a friend. I don't know what to do about the big things. I do know that in a little town, not very far east of here, I helped this wacky group of ministers do something that they never thought they could do. They were a group of people you wouldn't imagine together in the same room. Few of them were extremely liberal, socially, theologically, politically. There's a good hearty smack dab in the middle, kind of Midwestern, a couple conservatives, and one fundamentalist over here. But they got together because they said the people in their town were so mean, they needed to support each other. I said, maybe if we can get along, then the people in the town will stop being so mean. So they wanted to take a trip. They wanted to take a pilgrimage to Turkey. The fundamentalist had never been outside of Texas. So his friends said, you're the one who's going to plan the trip because you've got the biggest issues with all of this. Well, they were going to have a little van and a driver and a guide. And he asked that they both be Christian. They showed up in Turkey and they were both Muslim. He was nervous. His friends ribbed him. They spent the 14 days together driving around with this guide and this driver who knew so much about the Christian texts, who knew so much about the Christian history, about the religion, and had such respect. All the while, each day, these two men practicing their own religion and their daily prayers. The last day they were together, they had a small worship service. The fundamentalist presided. He had communion. He served all of the people in his little pilgrim group and then took the elements to the driver and guide and said, you're not my brothers in Christ but you are my brothers in Abraham, and you're always welcome. They've invited them to come to their little town to speak at their congregations and to speak to the people of their town. So I don't know what I'm going to really do about nuclear proliferation, about hunger and childhood diseases and the maldistribution of wealth. But I know that before I do anything, I've got to convince whomever I speak to that I hear them, and I must know that myself.